Have you ever noticed how life's biggest lessons often come through getting a taste of your own medicine? The story of Jacob and deception reveals something fascinating about human nature. We rarely learn from others' mistakes.
That's such an interesting way to look at it. And what makes this story particularly compelling is how it all unfolds at this well in Haran, 500 miles from where Jacob started.
You know what's really striking about that well scene? Jacob sees Rachel and immediately shows off by single handedly moving this massive stone that usually required several shepherds to lift. Talk about making a first impression.
Well, that's quite different from how Abraham's servant handled the same situation years earlier, isn't it? He spent time in prayer looking for specific signs from God.
Exactly, and here's where it gets interesting. Jacob's impulsiveness leads him to agree to 7 years of labor for Rachel's hand in marriage. The text actually says those years felt like just a few days because of his love for her,
Though let's be honest, he didn't have much choice about the labor since he couldn't provide a traditional dowry.
right? And Laban, being the shrewd manipulator he was, saw an opportunity to get 14 years of free labor by pulling off that wedding night switch. The irony is just incredible. Jacob, who once deceived his father by pretending to be his brother, gets deceived by a bride pretending to be her sister.
Hmm, that parallel is pretty striking. Both deceptions happened in darkness. Isaac because of his blindness, and Jacob because of the wedding veil.
And here's what's fascinating about Leah's story. Through her pain of being the unwanted wife, we can trace this amazing spiritual journey in how she names her sons. She starts with Reuben, hoping for Jacob's love. But by the time she has Judah, she's focused entirely on praising God.
That transformation really shows how God works through painful circumstances, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And here's the kicker. Leah, the rejected wife, becomes the mother of both Judah, from whose line Jesus would come, and Levi, the ancestor of Israel's priestly line. It's like God deliberately chose the underdog to carry out his most important promises.
That really challenges our modern ideas about success and fairness.
And speaking of challenges, let's talk about the family dynamics here. You've got two sisters married to the same man, competing through childbearing, and poor Jacob stuck in the middle while still working off his second 7 years of labor.
That must have created some intense rivalry between the sisters.
Oh, it definitely did. But what's really interesting is how God used those 14 years to transform Jacob. The man who once grabbed what he wanted through deception had to learn patience and perseverance the hard way.
So, what you're saying is that sometimes the waiting and working are exactly where God does his deepest work in us.
Precisely. And look at the legacy that came from all this mess. 12 tribes of Israel, the Levitical priesthood, and eventually Jesus himself. God took what looked like a terrible situation and used it for something extraordinary.
That's really hopeful for anyone going through difficult circumstances today.
You know what's really profound about this whole story? It shows that even in our messiest moments, even when we're dealing with difficult people or painful circumstances, God can use it all for something greater than we can imagine. The question is, are we willing to trust Him in the process?
Well, that's quite a powerful lesson from what started as a simple story about deception.
And perhaps that's why these ancient stories still resonate with us today. They remind us that God's work in our lives isn't always comfortable or straightforward, but it's always purposeful.